A Georgia judge is ruling that local election officials must certify results. It is a win for Democrats who share concerns that Trump allies may seek to delay vote counts after the November 5th election. Today's ruling comes after a judge denied a request from a Republican county election board member to declare that she had discretion to decline certifying results if there were concerns about the process. The 11-page ruling states local officials have a mandatory fixed obligation to certify results. Let's go and bring in Chief Legal Analyst Kyle Rhodes. We are 3 weeks out until election, and these are some of the battles that a lot of folks are going to be fighting in states where they're battleground states.
Republican push so far, maybe for the last year, but specifically since the change in leadership from the Republican Party was for sure that have attorneys in every state, specifically in battleground states, and to file these claims, to make these challenges, and to try to make enough waves to make sure that there are issues that can be addressed. And this was a challenge. I mean, these rules are coming down, we're like weeks away from the election, and this is one where the judge was dead on point. We're saying, look, our Constitution, state Constitution that is in Georgia, is pretty clear. You have a fixed, it's not something that's moved, you have an obligation. It's not a suggestion. You have to make sure that you certify the election. And we have a process. If you believe there's some irregularity, this is what he said in his opinion. If you believe that there's something that's happening that's wrong, there's a process in place. The process is pretty clear. You alert the officials that they're on the scene. They talk to the folks that are on the state level, and then the state will do an investigation, or the DA or anyone else. But Fulton County cannot get outside of the scope. That's where this case took place. Superior Court, Fulton County. I started my legal career there. I know a lot happens in Georgia. I know a lot specifically happens in Atlanta and Fulton County. And so it makes no surprise to me that this Superior Court judge down there made that ruling, because it follows what the law says it's supposed to follow.
Early voting opened up today in Georgia. It was also reportedly brisk and very healthy, more healthy than it was for 2020. Also, this is not just a win for Democrats. This is a win for democracy, too, because we're going to see a lot more of this. What about North Carolina as far as the situation on any kind of legal suits and certifying election results here?
I think the certification of elections is really not going to be an issue here in North Carolina like we're seeing in other states. I think most of the challenges that we've seen here were pre-challenges, making sure folks were off their voter rolls, making sure that there weren't people that names weren't supposed to be on there that were on there. And those battles, the Republicans, I think they made a lot of challenges early, throughout the process. Now on election day, they'll have attorneys in place to make sure those challenges can be made. And that's the way the process should be done. You want people that are poll watching. You want people that are challenging irregularities. If there is something that's happening that is outside the scope, if there's something that's happening that, hey, that didn't look right, or we're not having the proper checks and balances, you want an attorney to call it. You want someone to challenge it. So they'll talk to the poll chief and they'll say, hey, what's going on here is not right. I want to raise a challenge. But we have a process that's built into our law for that to happen. What we don't have is a process like what they were attempting to do in Georgia by saying, you know, these local election officials right there at the polls can make a determination and say, you know what, I didn't like the way our votes went today, so we're just not going to count them. We don't want a system like that, even if it's Republican or Democrat. You don't want it where an individual has an opportunity to sway or decide the election unless that individual is one voter. If it comes down to one vote and you're one vote sways the election, like that movie years ago, yeah, that makes sense. But if it's one poll election worker that's deciding it, I don't think that's what the framework was intended to do. Challenge it on the spot, allow itself to work its way up through the system. And if there's a process, it will figure itself out. And if that process doesn't work out, then you file a lawsuit. And then you have an opportunity for a court to decide, well, did they do that right or did they do it wrong? And the law swipes in and makes a determination. We saw that happen after the last election. A lot of the courts decided that things were done right, but there were a mountain of challenges that came after, like I suspect that we may see.
Over 60 challenges about fraud, and all of them came back where they didn't find anything. So we expect a lot more mountain of challenges heading into the legal election 3 weeks from today on November 5th. Chief Legal Analyst Kyle Rhodes, thanks.